Welcome to Tevilas Keilim Part 3. This is the last in our series of Tevilas Keilim. When you acquire clay suda, food, meal utensils from a non-Jew, you have to dip them in a mikvah before you use them. We actually went on a field trip today as promised. We're at a mikvah. We'd like to thank Shari Shalom Torah Center here in Brooklyn and US and East 21st for opening their beautiful mikvah for us so that we could film on site and actually show the way that you're supposed to dip the things in the mikvah. Mention that we always talk about meal utensils that you acquire from a non-Jew. Actually, some of the things that I'm going to dip today, I acquired from a Jew. This knife, the knife I bought this morning at Kosher in a Jewish-owned store, but it requires tevilah, it requires to be dipped in the mikvah because it was manufactured, it was made by a non-Jew, it was made in Portugal. Definitely, you could assume it was made by a non-Jew. So even though it was purchased from a Jew, it still has to be dipped in the mikvah. But before you come to the mikvah, you want to prepare the utensil, make sure that it's ready to go into the mikvah. If it was purchased, acquired from the non-Jew, having been used and is not kosher, first kasher it, whatever you have to do in order to make it kosher, to purge the non-kosher that's absorbed in the walls of the utensil, purge those first, and then you can bring it to the mikvah. Make sure that it's clean. Make sure there are no foreign substances on it. When you buy something, a lot of times there are price stickers on them, the manufacturer labels on them. Make sure you take those off. Sometimes there's some stubborn sticker that's hard to get off. If you use some acetone, pour some acetone on it, might make it easier to get that gunk off so that the surface is free of any foreign substance, because you need that the water is going to touch all of the surfaces of the utensil. There can't be something that separates between the utensil and the water of the mikvah. To make sure that all dirt is off, all stickers are off, and it's clean and ready to go into the mikvah. We spoke in previous lessons that not all materials require tevilah. Things made of wood that don't have to go into the mikvah. This is a knife. The blade of the knife is metal. Obviously, this has to go into the mikvah. You might think that since the handle is wood, it would be sufficient to go like this without dipping the handle. This is one knife, it's one utensil. The different substances have been merged together to make one thing. It requires the whole thing to be dipped into the mikvah. If you are immersing a glass or a pot, don't put it in the mikvah upside down, because when you put it upside down, the water surrounds it, but the air that's inside doesn't allow the water to come in. When you put it in the mikvah, you have to turn it to the side till all the air bubbles come out, and it will become full of the mikvah. We'll see when we dip it, we'll make sure that be able to see that how that has to be done. Have something that has electrical component to it. An electrical component, the manufacturer always warns, don't get this submerged in water. If you use an electrical component when it's wet, it's going to cause a short, and you ruin your thing, and you won't be able to use it anymore. Experience shows, though, that if you bring it to the mikvah, you tevilah, if you dip it, wait a number of days. Wait till it dries out, it won't damage the utensil at all. So if the housing where the electrical component gets into the water of the mikvah, where it's supposed to, so you put it aside, wait 4 days, do it at the beginning of the week if you need it before Shabbos, rather than do it on Thursday. I wouldn't dip this in the mikvah on Thursday and then Thursday night start preparing my meal for it. Maybe next Thursday, a week later, or at least wait 3-4 days till it's really dried out. You could use it, it won't be any problem. So how much of this has to go into the mikvah? You don't have to be tevilah the electrical cord. Well, why not? It's attached to the Keilim, to the utensils, all one thing. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Zabrano Bracha, was of the opinion that the electrical component is considered like a separate entity unto itself. And even though they are attached together, as proofs from other sources that you could have something that's one thing physically has different parts to it, and each part, if it has a separate function, could be considered a separate utensil. So this, in effect, is really the utensil that's the blade that chops and blends the food. And then this is the electrical part that just is the motor that supplies the electricity. This part doesn't really have to go into the mikvah. Which part would have to go into the mikvah? Well, how far up does the blade go in here? I don't know. I have a blender over here that's much easier. So there's a blender that's in two parts. So you would title this part, and this part obviously wouldn't have to go into the mikvah. But this one, I don't know. So as far up as the blade goes, that's how far it would have to go into the mikvah. The electrical component is still going to get wet, but it's not going to have to completely cover the whole thing. So this, you see has labels on it. This is something I've been using for years already. So this was, I already brought it into the mikvah a long time ago, so I'm just going to use it for demonstration purposes. This one doesn't really require immersion in the mikvah now. Now the actual immersion, you want to make sure that the water is going to get to all parts of the utensil. If you're going to hold this tight and put it in the water, the handle where you're holding is not going to get wet. So you could, actually, they've been nice enough to supply a basket. Just put the basket in the water and then lower the utensil in there, shake it around and make sure it's completely covered by the water. Or if you want, what you could do is get your hand wet, put your hand in the mikvah, get your hand wet, and then pass the things into your hand so that the water in your hand is getting the part of the utensil that you're holding wet. And since your hand is in the mikvah, it's attached to the mikvah, and it's not the whole thing would work. So I'm going to now recite the blessing. If you can see on the wall, the last word of the blessing has a mem, has one letter in parentheses. The difference between Keilim, the first three letters of that word, and that last letter, the mem, is whether it's a singular or plural. If you're immersing, you're dipping one utensil, just say the bracha in the singular, Tevilas Keilim, immersion, the dipping of a Keilim, a utensil. I'm doing few, so I'm going to say the bracha in the plural, Tevilas Keilim. What is the bracha? Baruch atah Hashem, blessed you Hashem, Elokeinu, our God, Melech HaOlam, the King of the world, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvosav, who has made us holy with his mitzvos, Mitzivanu, when he commanded us, al Tevilas, on the immersion of, on the dipping of Keilim, or Keilim, a utensil or Keilim. I'm going to get my hand wet, and I'm going to say the bracha and dip these. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu al Tevilas Keilim. Now it's completely surrounded by the water. So now we're gonna actually show what you might do in your home. So I have bought a new food processor. Never used it before. You can go get home, you take the food processor out of the box, and what you should do is examine each part of it to see whether it needs to go into the mikvah. And let's use the knowledge that we've gotten from all the lessons to apply that over here. So the food processor is These are all plastic. These don't have to go into the mikvah. Here we have the blade. Be careful, it's a sharp blade. The blade is metal, this is plastic. The metal blade, what's used to process the food, definitely has to go into the mikvah. The bowl, plastic, doesn't have to go into the mikvah. The unit that has the motor is separate. It's not even attached, doesn't touch the food, doesn't even have to go into the mikvah at all. You don't have to worry about it getting wet. Now the blades, very careful, these are sharp blades. The blades, metal, one piece of plastic on them. So let's see, let's peel this off and see that none of the glue really got stuck onto it. This is metal, so this has to go into the mikvah, as is this one also. Metal, plastic, these two things should go into the mikvah. So the rest of this doesn't, but it really doesn't have to go into the mikvah. So before we finish, I just want to review the actual procedure of how to dip things in the mikvah. When you have a lot of things to be able to dip, you have a set of cutlery, a lot of forks and knives and spoons, you have a set of glasses that you have to be titled. You might want, instead of doing them one at a time, you might want to take, let's say, a basket or a mesh net or something like that, net bag or something like that, put it in the mikvah, immerse it in the mikvah, and put them in one at a time. So each knife you throw in, it goes through the water, it lands at the bottom. You might want to shake it around to make sure that the water got around all of it. That's one method. Or, alternatively, the way that we did it, get your hand wet in the mikvah, pass things into your hand, hold it not too tight, so that the whole area, the whole surface of the utensil is covered by the water. Put it in, and this way you've done it properly. The conclusion, sometimes you might buy something you're not really sure, does it have to go into the mikvah? Is it considered kli suda? Is it considered a meal utensil? Does it come in contact with the food enough, or is it far removed from the food that doesn't require? Ask your rabbi, you have a local Orthodox rabbi, call him up, ask him what his opinion is. If you don't have anyone to ask, you can always send the question to askrpr2@gmail.com, and we'll try to research it for you. Thank you for listening.